Hello, I'm Robyn Moore, all the way from the island state of Tasmania in Australia. And it's my privilege to be interviewed by Amber the Fangirl and to share some lovely stories from my almost 50 years as a voiceover artist and 28 years as a speaker. You'll hear a little bit about the political satire How Green Was My Cactus, Australia's longest running radio series, where I did some voices of international characters. Hello, dear listener. It's so lovely to be interviewed by Amber the Fangirl. Oh, I wish I had some fans. To cartoon characters that I love and adore, including Blinky Bill, the mischievous koala.
Oh, far out, Brussels sprout. I thought you'd never stop talking. It's Blinky Bill here, and my favouriteest word in the whole wide world is extraordinary.
So we really hope you enjoy this interview, and I'll let Blinky have the last word.
You're watching In Conversation with Amber the Fangirl, ATF, which clearly stands for Australian Tree Fanatic. No, I'm just messing with you. It really stands for Amber the Fangirl, and she is really extraordinary.
Hi guys, Amber here. Welcome back to another episode of In Conversation with ATF. Today, my guest is from Australia, just like Keith Scott. In fact, she's actually known Keith Scott for over 30 years. They've worked together on a lot of projects. They worked on How Green Was My Cactus, Blinky Bill, a lot of Yoram Gross projects, and everything else. My guest is the voice of Blinky Bill, Nutsy, Marcia Mouse, Miss Magpie in Blinky Bill. She was also Alex in the educational series Bright Sparks. Do you remember Bright Sparks?
No.
I was going to say Keith worked on that as well.
Yeah.
I have to show you a clip of it in a bit. You've also done work on Tabaluga, sorry if I didn't pronounce that correctly.
No, that's right. Tabaluga. Yep.
You were Dot in a lot of the Dot movies.
Yes.
Wow.
6 of them, I think, with Keith.
Oh, wow. So you've definitely worked with Keith on literally everything. And also Skippy Adventures in Bushtown. I think, was that your first ever voice role?
No. The first ever voice role with Yoram was as a bunny rabbit in Dot and the Bunny.
Ah.
He loved the bunny voice so much. When he bought the rights for Blinky Bill, he said, would I use the bunny voice for Blinky?
So that's how I came to be, because, I started practicing as a rabbit and then I transformed into a koala.
It's crazy.
Yeah. My guess is literally Australia's answer to Tara Strong, any of the big American voice actors. Wow. I mean, Keith Scott is literally Australia's answer to Frank Welker, in my opinion. My guest is Robyn Moore. Hi.
Hello, Amber. Hello, everybody. We're going to have some fun today talking about voices.
Oh, yeah. Especially down under, because you're my second Australian voice actor I've had on this show. So apart from Keith.
Excellent.
So it's nice to have a bit of variety, because the rest of the voice actors I've had are American. So yeah, it's nice to just spice things up a little bit.
Good. I hope you're going to, understand my accent.
Oh yeah, of course I can.
Not really Australian, but Keith and I have we're not so broad. I hope you can understand.
Oh, good. I can understand. I grew up with a lot of Australian shows that aired in the UK. Obviously, Blinky Bill, Bananas in Pyjamas, Wiggles, High Five, everything along those lines. So
there you go. See,
I'm used to it. And it's basically, sometimes I can't tell the difference between a British accent and an Australian accent, because sometimes when someone starts talking, you're like, is that British? And then they've got a bit of a twang to it. I'm like, that's Aussie, definitely.
Australian.
Yep. Yeah, definitely.
Yep. Americans can't discern some of our words because of the vowel sounds. Yeah. So we say, I'm going home from work to iron my shirt. And Americans can't understand that. Or home. Home is a particularly difficult word. Or my name, Moore. If you say to an American, my name is Robyn Moore, they go, Moore? More. They can't get that vowel sound.
Yeah.
They want to roll that. They have that
Oh, actually, that reminds me. There's some Australian words that I quite like. Is it true that you call petrol stations servos and McDonald's Maccas?
Yes, everything is shortened. So, you go to, we're going to have a barbie.
A barbie.
It's not a barbecue, it's always a barbie. And Christmas is they're going to have a Chrissy party and have a barbie. and we'll bring some. Yeah, everything's just shortened to this word with an I, a Y on the end of it. So.
What's this? I wouldn't say silly. So what's the most unique word that you use to describe something that's different in other countries?
I like. I've been using the word dickhead a lot lately during COVID, which is not a really nice word, but it kind of. Some of our football teams actually have a no dickhead policy. So it's in common usage around Australia a lot. Drongo is a lovely word for somebody who does idiotic thing. Oh, he's a bit of a drongo. Mm-hmm. In Tasmania, because I'm from the island state of Australia, and we have some peculiar words that are just for Tasmanians, and we have rumman. If you're a little bit of a devil, a little bit cheeky, you're called a rumman. And I think it goes back to the convict days when the soldiers, there was no money to pay them, so they were paid with rum. So they'd get drunk a lot and not turn up for duty. And so he's been a rumman, sir.
Nice.
And that became, oh, you're a rumman. So there's some lovely, colourful words. I adore them.
Yeah, definitely. I always wanted to move to Australia, to be fair. I know it's nice and hot. Well, it probably isn't hot at the moment because you're in the southern hemisphere, and I think it's winter for you guys now.
It is, yeah. But I'm in Hobart, just out of Hobart. But so we have this beautiful river called the River Derwent, and the moderating effect of the sea keeps our temperature not too cold. We'll have a couple of evenings that are 0 degrees a year. But that's it. Whereas mainland Australia, you can get down to -20 in the winter in the desert regions. So, we have quite a moderate temperature. It does get cooler, but not those extremes because of the sea around us.
I see. I mean, I think when I interviewed Keith, we were in the middle of a very big heat wave. We had a heat wave for about a week, and it was like going up to 35 degrees. I think somehow over Zoom, Keith literally swapped the weather with us because it was freezing cold in Australia, really hot over here. I can't handle the heat. It's just too hot. No. I feel like unmotivated. I can't work. And it's just makes me tired.
Yeah. But anyway, it's the weather, and I'm just glad when I wake up every day and I'm breathing. So, I'm ahead.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing you got to mainly think about. Yeah, we're here, and that's what matters.
Yeah. And Blinky has that attitude. That's what I love about that little character, that he's just full of life. He's just enlivening for children. And even if he, runs into a big problem, it's, come on, we can't let this happen. The dingoes can't take away our future. So he rallies with his mates and he's got these great ideas and then he stuffs up and he has to be accountable. And, I love all of that. And that's why children relate so well to him.
I think I see a Blinky plush in the background, just on your left.
It's not even a plush toy. It's this terrible little koala statue that I found in a $2 shop, and I actually dressed it in a little Blinky outfit. And when my two sons go on holidays, I always say, "Can you take Blinky with you?" And I got these insane photos of him because he's kind of doing that, and so they've got him coming out of a tent in some of the photos where he's going he's always yawning after a big camping sleep. It's just a silly thing that our family does. So.
Oh wow. So did your sons grow up with Blinky Bill then? I'm presuming they were born in the 80s, 90s, if I'm correct.
Yeah, one was born in 1981 and he's become a very famous actor in New York and around the world.
Oh,
so that's
wow.
Robyn Moore. And Toby was in John Wick 1. He was in the Pacific. He's one of the stars of Billions. He's just been in the movie Mank.
Wow.
And he was in Condor 2. And he and his wife have just filmed a fabulous miniseries in Australia called The Unusual Suspects.
Wow.
So he's been in work for 10 years.
I'm having a look at his biography now. Wow.
Yeah, Toby Leonard Moore.
Wow.
And his wife, also an actress, and she's Michelle Vergara Moore. And they both were husband and wife in that last mini-series because it was shot during COVID. Mm-hmm. And that made it much easier for the producers to have a real couple playing a real couple.
Oh,
Yeah, so
wow, I
yeah,
didn't know that.
he grew up and started voiceovers when he was about 5, and my next son, my second son, he also did voiceovers. So that's Daniel Moore, and he's an architect, and he does voiceovers as well as doing architecture. So they both do voiceovers. Toby does voiceovers in New York as well, and does them here in Australia. And
I
so
see.
they've both grown up in that world. We just love sound in our family because I grew up in the outback. My dad was a stockman, a drover, shearer, chef, wool baler. So when I was little in 1950, we listened to the radio serials. And so, our sons have grown up listening to me say, oh, listen to that voiceover. Oh, isn't that beautiful? Oh, did you hear the way he stressed that? Or listen to the beautiful tone in that voice, So they've heard these conversations, and they both do some cartoon work. And they said that recently they've been doing some cartoons, and they're bringing in actors who are just using their normal voice.
Yeah.
And Keith, Scott and I are from that world where you don't do that. Keith has 400 voices.
It's my fun. I know it's starting to get hot in my room.
And I'm having a hot flush here in Tasmania, so between the two of us we'll probably implode.
Yeah.
But Keith does 400 voices, and he taught me to land on top of a voice. When you're just doing your ordinary voice, it's just let's get started on this adventure, guys. It's just flat and boring. Whereas I brought in a photo of some of the characters, from Blinky Bill.
Oh wow, that's so cool.
So that's Blinky, and little Nutsy.
Nutsy.
I just despair about Blinky because he's so naughty sometimes.
So she's a little bit more proper.
Yeah.
And she's lovely. She does everything really well. She reads and she studies and she concentrates with Miss Magpie. Miss Magpie.
Love my Magpie.
and she's got this really nauseating kind of, squeaky voice. And she goes, Blinky Bill, you're driving me insane. Oh, my goodness, look at your pants. They're covered in mud. Oh, fair suck of the sausage, Miss Magpie. I try to be on my bestest behaviour almost every day.
Oh, my God.
And this snake here is Cynthia Python. And, because she's a snake, you don't just use an ordinary voice. She's like, I'm Cynthia Python, and I am so slippery, and I just love to spit every time I speak.
Wow.
And Yoram, they had a little song written by Guy Gross, Yoram's son. He did all the music in the series. From the age of 17, he wrote all the music. And he wrote this gorgeous song where she was singing, snakes are so superior. So every word had an S in it so that she could spit.
Yeah.
And Marcia, well, she's just very squeaky for a little mouse.
Yeah.
And Mrs. Rabbit, now, Mrs. Rabbit's got these big teeth like I have. And because she's a rabbit, she's introduced, so I could, extend the voice and come from your country, and she's got rabbits everywhere. She's got millions of babies.
Yeah.
And so, you've got more of these characters, but when you bring life to them, that's why, cartoons done that way just leap off the page. And, like Keith and I love it. Like he does Flap the Platypus. Yeah. For those people watching, a platypus, has this big beak. They're quite weird creatures. And so he gave the platypus Daffy Duck's voice with an Australian accent. So it was like, I'm Flap the Platypus. And so the writers heard that, and then they wrote all of the P's and F's so that every time, he read a sentence, it was all and then Blinky would go, oh, fair suck of the sausage, Flap, you're spitting everywhere, And it's a lovely kind of dance between the performances, and then the writers hear that and then they embellish, and that's what was so fun about the series.
Yeah, and I believe he does Splodge the Kangaroo as well, and Wombo, and all the other male characters apart from Blinky.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there's a lovely joke that they put in every episode, I think, where Blinky would see Wombo, the old wombat, he'd say, "G'day, Wombo," and Keith would say, don't call me Wombo. And he would say, oh, sorry, Wombo. And it's such a corny dad joke, you know, but I laughed every time. I just thought it was so funny, and I'm sure the children did too.
Yeah, I certainly laughed at it, definitely. And man, working with Keith, it must have been an honour. I mean, Keith must have thought it would have been an honour to work with you as well, of course.
No, I just, you know, worship Keith, and he's so quiet, you know, off the microphone. He's, I don't know, you know, it's great to have dinner with Keith because you dine with 400 people.
Yeah, definitely. Oh,
yeah. Did he do some voices for you when you interviewed him?
Yeah.
What was your favourite?
I know he did Bullwinkle's voice. He did Wombo's voice. He did a few others. I believe he was originally going to be Diesel 10 in Thomas and Magic Railroad, but he was recast. But he did his voice for me. It was like sort of like, you know, quite evil voice.
Yes. Oh, his range is extraordinary.
And grew up around the best.
In the political satire that we did in Australia for 33 years called How Green Was My Cactus, sometimes it was when Blair was in and Bush and John Howard was the Prime Minister of Australia. So Keith would stand on the microphone and I would say, how green was my cactus? And then I'd sit down and have a cup of coffee and Keith would just talk to himself with you know, Blair talking to Bush, talking to Howard, and not a pause, you know, like the sound engineer didn't have to edit any space. No, it was just completely continuous.
I think me and Keith are having to do a part 2 interview because there's so much to talk about with him. Man, it's just,
absolutely.
We had to do another part.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'd love to ask you, how did you get into voiceover?
As I say, loved wireless when I was a child in the outback. Mum said all my toys had voices and I'd sit them in a circle and I'd ask them questions and they'd answer me with funny voices. And if they got the answer wrong, I'd smash them with a ruler. So I was to be a teacher, so I became a primary school teacher and then started to do ads on the radio while I was teaching. And then I played Nancy and Oliver in a musical, and the director worked at the ABC and she said, had I ever thought of doing, you know, voiceovers for ABC? And I said, no. So I'll never forget, Amber, standing on a Monday night in front of the microphone and just thinking, this is a window to the world. And I was bitten by the bug. And so I taught for 5 years and did recordings for the ABC at night. And then 5 years later, I said to my husband, I have to go to Sydney. There's some things I have to do. I have to follow my bliss. And we packed up enough, some of our stuff in a combi van. We had enough money to live for 6 weeks. And I just found this niche in the Australian voiceover industry because it was the start of the film industry in Australia, which really boomed at that time, 1976. Mm-hmm. And so all the actresses who were doing voiceovers all went into film. And here was this lovely space for me. And it just took off. It was great. So I was in Sydney for 17 years. And then we moved back to Hobart. Mm-hmm. And I discovered speaking. So I'm a speaker now. And, you know, I used to be on 180 flights a year until COVID. So I speak all over Australia, Australasia, around the world. Wow. About the power of the word. Because, doing ads that sell millions of dollars worth of products, and all of that's done in 30 seconds. You know, that's the power of the word to sell. And Blinky, I've been making phone calls with Blinky for 20 years. We haven't recorded anything for Blinky for 20 years or something, but I've been ringing Make-A-Wish children as Blinky because I'm the national patron of Make-A-Wish. I have been for 28 years in Australia, and I'm a volunteer wish granter. And I discovered one day some parents found out that I was Blinky Bill, and they said, look, our 5-year-old daughter Alicia loves Blinky. Would you call her as Blinky? And I'd never thought of that. And Alicia had cystic fibrosis, so she was drowning in the fluids in her lungs. And I said, g'day, Alicia, it's Blinky Bill here. And I just met your mum and dad and they said, you're extraordinary. And she said, I know.
And I said, I want you to promise me, as tough as things are, every day when you wake up, you got to look at yourself in the mirror and you got to whisper, I am extraordinary. Will you promise you'll do that? She said, yes. And I received an email from her mum the next day saying they went to the doctors for her regular checkup. And the doctor said, what did you do? What did you change? I've never seen anything like this. Her lung function has increased dramatically. And the mother sheepishly said, a koala rang her. And I make these life-changing phone calls now. I just did one the other day for a little boy, 8. The teacher sent me a message saying he sits in the classroom with his hoodie over his head. He doesn't talk to anybody. He won't participate. He's totally isolated. He can't say goodbye to his dad in the mornings. He, complains for 2 hours after he's left his dad and can't settle. And he draws nothing but Blinky Bill drawings all day.
Wow.
And so I sent him a message, finding out extra things about him, and every sentence I just pumped that into the little recorded message. And even dealing with his dad and not being able to part from dad, I became the role model there. And I said, Oscar, I'm at school too, and gee, it's really hard. I used to find it really hard to say bye-bye to my mum. But then Wombo said to me that I had to find my courage. And I went looking everywhere for it and I couldn't find it. But guess what? It was inside me all the time. So now I just say, see you, Mum. I'm going to have an adventure at school. See you this afternoon. Bye. Just a little role modelling there, And the teacher has just sent a message saying you can't wipe the smile off his face. He is talking to people. He's just jumping around with joy. He's got a little letter from Blinky. I wrote this little letter to him from Blinky and Nutsy.
Oh, wow.
And so these simple little things, they take a couple of minutes to do, but because the intent is to connect and engage and make his day and transform him.
You're so magical.
Yeah, well, we all are. God, if we just did that with, when you buy a sandwich at a shop and you look at somebody in the eyes and appreciate who they are, it's like we can become our word. We can be kindness, we can be extraordinary, as Blinky says. And I always ask children, which empowering word are you going to be after I've been with them? And one little boy said recently, I have a word. And I said, what's your word, Lockie? And he said, lifeful. And I said, oh my goodness, Lockie, lifeful. I've never heard that word before. Did you just make that up? And he went, and I went home and I said, I'm going to give that word to all my audiences now, and they're going to copy you and they're going to be lifeful people. And I went home and looked it up on Google, and it was last used in the 13th century. And we don't use lifeful anymore. We use lifeless. And so now all my audiences, when people say, how are you today? They don't say, oh, my corn's hurting. They say, thank you for asking, I'm lifeful. It's just a simple shift. And that's come from one of the beautiful children that I get to speak to.
I think I'm going to say that now. I'm always going to say that if people... Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm very nervous at the moment because I have a documentary premiering on Monday. It's like a virtual Zoom premiere. It's on Bill Scott, who obviously Keith met in America and took over the role of Bullwinkle from. So I made a documentary on him. I think he's coming along. Yeah, it's about 2 hours.
Wonderful. And that's good nerves, though. And you can be lifeful watching it because you're right on the edge. And you jumped into your best self. It's
people
lovely.
Ask me, oh yeah, how are you feeling? And I used to say, oh yeah, I feel really nervous. I'm like, how am I feeling? I'm lifeful.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. No, you can be nervous and lifeful.
Yeah.
Because those two can go together. It's fantastic.
It literally feels like my whole body's just shaking. It feels like the blood's just shooting through my arms. I'm like, it's just so great.
That's it. That's it. I mean, I'm only on the planet to get people to fall in love with their life. That's it. I just love that we have existence, and you do too. Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing this. You'd just be lying on the couch watching telly, but you're creating all the time, and you're curious and full of wonderment and, a lifelong learner. Yeah, it's lovely. and
Now,
communicate.
I'd like to talk to you about something. Now, this does link into Blinky Bill.
Yeah.
So, I'm actually a voice actor myself.
Yes.
And last year, I got my first voiceover role.
What was that?
It was for a children's coin-operated helicopter ride. I'm not sure if you could see it up here. There's a little photo here of me with it.
Oh, yes, yes.
So I'll show you a bigger photo anyways, because I've got it on my phone. It was amazing.
Okay.
It was exhibited in London. It was just so big. Well, not big, I mean, but the exhibition was just so big, and it just felt like I was on top of the world. It's like I had finally achieved it.
And when you show the photo, can you do the voice?
Sure.
Yes, I want to hear the voice.
And away. There it is. Heli to
that is
tower.
Excellent. And say something else as the character. So did it just say up and away, or did it have a whole sequence of commands or comments?
It was just the sound effects. There was up and away, heli to tower, come in tower, heli to the rescue, and road to power.
And hear the energy you're putting into that. So your normal voice, is at this level, and then you landed on top of the voice, and that's where that energizing happens for little ones. And my animated characters have so much power.
It's so weird because when I was younger, I had a really squeaky voice, but now it's just slowly gone down, which is quite weird.
Yeah, it's a nice middly voice.
But that kind of links into a thing I want to say. We actually both have something in common.
What's that?
We both have our voices on children's coin-operated rides.
Oh, yeah.
There is a Blinky Bill coin-operated ride.
No, is there?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know whether I did the voice for it.
I don't know either, but
No, it's probably somebody else.
I'll send you a video of it afterwards, but this
Yes, thank you.
The video. This is the ride.
Oh, wow. Oh, I'd love to have done the commands. Maybe I did. We did sort of all sorts of licensed things many, many years ago. In fact, the saddest thing, there's only one regret I have with Blinky Bill, and that is that when they pitched Blinky as the mascot for the Sydney Olympic Games, they didn't use the voice.
What?
It was just the suit. It was just the suit. And I, still to this day, I think, if only we could have had a dancer in the suit and, just talked and said, far out, Brussels sprout, I can be the mascot for the Olympic Games because you don't get anybody more Australian than Blinky Bill. It just would have been amazing. And he could have done all these crazy things. But anyway, they went ahead with 4 other characters that nobody kind of related much to. And it was so sad. as the millennials say, so sad.
Oh dear. Oh yeah. Also about that Blinky Bill ride, it was made by a UK company. It was originally made in the United Kingdom, but there's not been any sighted over here. They've all been in Australia and New Zealand.
Wow. Cool. Yes, I see Blinky was really big. It went to 70 countries, I think, and my voice wasn't in all of the characters. We had a French Blinky Bill, a Cantonese Blinky Bill, a German Blinky Bill. He was huge in Germany. There was a shop with 4 stories full of merchandise. But in Germany, apparently, now I haven't heard the soundtrack.
That's probably where my parents saw Blinky Bill, because my parents and my sister grew up in Germany in the 90s, so... Not just
they
the
wouldn't
BBC.
know me. Yeah, they wouldn't know me because the Germans don't kind of do characters. They just have a guy going, extraordinary, So it's like a...
But she did watch the British version because she remembers it being on children's BBC. So...
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So, how lovely to have that in common with you.
Yeah. And
where are the machines? Are they your machines? Are they everywhere or?
My machines, well... It's a bit of a long story, actually. So OMC Electronics made that Blinky Bill kiddie ride. Mm-hmm. About a few years later, OMC were brought out by a company called Northern Leisure Group. Northern Leisure Group were the makers of that helicopter ride I did. So Northern Leisure technically owned the rights to the Blinky Bill ride because actually both rides have the same announcer saying press the star button and stuff like that. I only do the voices of the sound effects on the ride.
Yeah, and
Northern
it's
Legend.
hard. Look, it's hard to keep track of all of that. And back in the day, we weren't aware of all of this duplication and social media and all of those things. So, for me, and you might have a bit of sadness about what happened to your ride and your voice, but always know that your voice, probably created a pilot somewhere. There could have been some little bloke in there who was going up and away, and he goes, oh, I love flying and I'm going to be a pilot one day. So you could have been the creator of a pilot, Blinky, all these things I've been doing for 20 years, these little phone calls, transform people's lives. So we're both holders of wonder for children, and if you just own that, wow, how meaningful is that?
Yeah.
Some people are being buried today, and on their headstone it will have died with potential intact. Nobody saw what they could do or contribute, whereas we're contributing. So it's great.
Well, you're right about the whole where my ride is now, because Northern Leisure went bankrupt this year because of COVID. So there's only one helicopter made.
Wow.
Well, actually,
Where's
no, I
that?
think there's two. There's two. Well,
Yeah.
no, they were meant to be like 100, but obviously because of the bankruptcy, they've only made about 3.
Yeah,
I think 2 or 3. I think, because I think there's one in Israel, but I don't have confirmation about that. There is one in Bradford, which is about 2 hours away from me, and the other one is in Iceland at Kringla Shopping Centre in Reykjavik, which is
you're an international success.
Yeah,
No,
and they changed the announcers for the buttons, like I mean, not for the buttons, sorry. I mean the announcers, like, they're saying, please insert a coin, thank you, press start. It's obviously in like Icelandic, but the sound effect buttons are exactly the same. So it's just I'm the only English voiceover on the ride. And I just think, because I hope
the children understand what you're saying.
I see photos on Instagram of people of Kringland just on that helicopter ride, and I asked them, did you put money in it? Did you hear my voice? Because I'm eager to see what people think of me as a voiceover person.
Well, see if you can zoom up on the photos, and watch their little faces, because that will give you the whole picture.
Yeah, I haven't seen 2 so far, but hopefully.
So do you plan to go any further with your voiceover career? Or, I mean, see, right now what you're doing is of great value this way. You don't always have to follow the one path down there. There's multiple paths where you use your voice.
Yeah,
and this one might be even more worthwhile.
I do plan on going into voiceover. I mean, I've been offered a few voiceover roles. I've had one with someone who interviewed me. He's offered me a role in his cartoon series that he's doing a pilot on. He's pitching it to I think it's Adult Swim or Cartoon Network, one of those. And he's pitched me for the lead. And I think Rob Paulson's going to be another cast member in it. So I'm working alongside the best. So
there you go.
Wow.
There you go.
Real.
Well, and you don't know where that's going to lead. It's all mysterious.
Yeah.
It's all mysterious. Yeah. In fact, Blinky's voice is based on one of the children I used to teach as a teacher.
Oh, really?
It's based on Scott, who was the most vibrant little fellow I've ever taught in my life. And he'd say, Mrs. Moore, Mrs. Moore, Mrs. Moore, look at that bird's nest. And he would take nature walks, and he was the leader of the nature walks. And he was so amazing. And I was just interviewed recently, and the ABC interviewer heard that story, and she's now going to look for Scott because he's now a man and he's a fisherman. And we're going to try and find him, and they want to do a story on this lovely fisherman who has inspired the voice of Blinky Bill and affected, millions of children around the world.
Yeah, that would definitely be a lovely story. I would watch that. I would watch that. I'm never in the UK, but I'll find a way. I'd like to ask you about Bright Sparks. Now, I know obviously I said it to you before and you didn't really remember, but it was made by Yoram Gross.
Yeah,
it was you and Keith and Taylor Owens as well.
Yes. It's in the back of my mind. It's a dim, dark memory.
We got it on VHS over here. It never aired over here, but we somehow got it on VHS.
Radio. Yeah. No, I can't remember much about that one. That was a long time ago. And I'm 70 now, so I'm
Wow.
very old.
I didn't
now.
realize you were 70. I thought you were like in your early 60s. You look quite young.
Oh, well, that's good. Good. That's the makeup holding my face in, Amber. It's all working.
Yeah. People always mistake me for 13, and well, no, I'm 17 actually. So, yeah, you just look really young. And sometimes it's an advantage, sometimes it's a disadvantage.
Yes, that's right. Yep.
Yeah.
When you get to 40, people take you more seriously. I've been told. So
I was going to say, I auditioned.
A long way to go yet.
The only time it's been a disadvantage for me looking younger is because a few years ago, about 3 years ago, I auditioned for a soap opera in the UK, like a TV show. They were looking for a girl with autism. So I auditioned. They said I looked too young. So,
so there's a certain age that you have to be.
Yeah, like when I'm 15, looking for older people. When I'm older, they're looking for younger people.
It's that's the way of the world. Yes. And, you just have to get used to the word no. And I carry the no button with me.
No, 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 no. For the last time, no.
Because you're going to be auditioning and doing all those things. And my older son and daughter-in-law, because they're in auditions all the time as actors, they just have a relationship with the word no. It's really healthy. And it doesn't mean that you're bad or wrong or you don't have any talent. They're looking for something specific. So you might be too tall, too short, too fair, too dark, too brainy, too dumb, too wise, too, snooty, too whatever. And it's okay. You just dance with the word no. And one of the agents that Toby was with, she said, it's a great quote for any actors watching who, have to cope with this word no and not make it personal. She said one day, no, in this business, it's a strange word, sometimes, it means no. And sometimes, it means hippo. Like there's no rhyme or reason to it. It's just hippo.
Yeah.
And when you can just see how ridiculous it is and how absurd to bring any meaning to that, when there's so many things they're looking for, then you can get on to the next audition.
Yeah. I know this is unrelated, but I just wanted to ask you, have you ever been to the UK before?
Yes, I have.
Have you?
Yes. I loved London. I didn't travel as much as I wanted around England, but I spoke in Ireland to 500 Irish rural women. And they taught me about how to say the word idiot. And I work for an idiot. I'm self-employed. And there's a lovely adage in Ireland. If you want to climb over a great big wall, first throw your hat over. At least you'll be committed. And that's where, you declare what you want in the future, and then you have to climb over the wall and get your hat back. So I loved it. And when COVID's given us a little bit more of a window, I can't wait to get on another plane and come back over. So how have you been managing during COVID?
I've been making this Bill Scott documentary. That's mainly what I've been doing. And I also I got on a college course last September.
Wow, that's fantastic. See, look at the good use you put this time to. That's excellent. Yeah.
So I'm at college now. I study performing arts and acting. So
good on you. Yeah.
And sometimes.
And where's the?
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
The documentary. Where is it being? It's
on YouTube.
On YouTube.
It's going to be on YouTube next week. I'm hoping to aim on release it on the 5th of August.
Okay.
On my YouTube channel. You've seen my YouTube channel, right?
I have seen a little bit of it, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I get messages all the time from parents of autistic people, and like you, I'm their little ray of sunshine in the world, and I do little videos just to say hi and stuff, and they're like, they always send me saying, "Thank you so much, you've made his or her day," and just makes me so happy.
That's it. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's a happy pill.
Yeah. I'm also like a more reclusive person, so sometimes I don't like interacting with fans. Sometimes I do. It's just depending on how I feel that day.
Yeah. And I'm sure they understand that because you'd have lots and lots of them, and you need to get some sleep every now and again.
Yeah.
I've just been given a big award in Australia, and it's been absolutely wonderful receiving all these messages, but I'm just, every night I'm up until midnight trying to answer them, but I still, haven't reached everybody, but people understand.
Yeah, of course. What I was going to say was when I usually go to college, because I have autism, sometimes I think of like my favorite shows to help me like kind of get through the day, make me more excited and just more energetic and ready. So sometimes, let's say if I was in class, because it's performing arts, it's mainly practical. Whether I'm running around, I just think, let's just say if I go back, because I'm moving up a level because I just graduated from like level 2, I'm on to level 3 now. It's to say I'm running around doing an exercise and I just think of Blinky Bill in my head and I'm just like, oh yeah, what if Blinky Bill's here? What if Robyn Moore standing right behind me? Okay, let's just keep running. And then just pretend we've had like 5 energy drinks and just run off the walls and make people think, what on earth is she doing? I'm the crazy one out of the bunch. People always call me the crazy one.
Yeah, that's good. Well, you give people permission to be fully self-expressed. That's what you do.
Yeah, definitely. I was wondering, do you have any other voice projects in the pipeline? Are you still doing cartoons? Are you still doing voiceovers?
No, we finished How Green Was My Cactus after about 7,500 episodes in 33 years. Wow. So I loved, they were all political characters. So, I mean, I was doing Margaret Thatcher, we called her Maggot Hatcher. And, and I loved doing her. She was so interesting to copy. But we had some real characters in Australian politics. We had our Prime Minister, our first female Prime Minister was Julia Gillard. And she was called Julia Buzzard. And she had this very flat vowel sound. She'd say, A, E, I, O, U. So it was, my name is Julia Buzzard, and I am no longer moving forward, rebuilding, creating an education revolution because my party thought I was as popular as snot in a snorkel. And we had characters that had little tiny clutchy voices, and I mean that was just such a beautiful way to express all of these voices that are inside. So now I'm actually just starting a documentary. Somebody wants to do a documentary on the power of the word.
Wow.
So that we're going to explore my life as a voiceover artist, a teacher, as a speaker, and look at all of the nuances with the word. I mean, how to sell millions of dollars worth of products in an ad because of your intent. And people could be hundreds of people do one voiceover in a 30-second grab.
Yeah.
But why do my ads sell millions of dollars worth of products? Because you're not just reading the word from the page. There's an intent to get that word to connect with the people. Yeah. So it's going to explore all of those nuances, I remember once being given a pair of jeans to advertise, and they didn't have any copy, no script. And they just said, put the jeans on and talk about the experience. And so I did, and the jeans were really, tight and sexy. I was much younger. And the ad sounded like this. I'm wearing Brian Rochford jeans. Let me tell you how they feel against my skin. And I know, I'm an old lady now doing this, but we sold $3.5 million worth of jeans in 5 days.
Wow.
In a 30-second commercial.
Wow.
Because I was sharing my story. And it reached people,
It's the power of the word, Robyn.
Power of the word. Yeah, and the cartoons and how that little boy who hid under his hoodie and couldn't speak, just came out of his shell, and the teachers couldn't stop crying. They were just all, like, look at him, he's just unrecognizable after a 2-minute message. This is what turns me on, and I'll never forget when I was little. When I was about 3, Mum found me crying my eyes out. She said, what on earth's the matter? And I said, I don't want to be a bean. She said, what? I said, I don't want to be a bean. She said, what do you mean? And I said, on the wireless, they said we were human beings. And Mum said, no, darling, we're human beings. And like I must have come out of the womb just entranced with the word, And so when my mum told me we were human beings, I mean, this is a little 3-year-old person, it just turned me on to, its existence, and it's always just been with me. So, we have to be the guardians of the word, and we can do so much with it. We had terrible fires in Australia a couple of years ago, and some of the public became really narky and disrespectful about our volunteer firefighters. And, they're angels. They're just angels. They put their lives at risk to go and save people's houses. And Russell Crowe's house was saved and the neighbours burnt. And somebody was saying, oh, yes, that'd be right. They'll save the film star's house. Well, that wasn't the case. It was just that they could save that one and they couldn't save that one. But a beautiful fireman saved a house down the road, and he left this note that just said, sorry we couldn't save your sheds. We're lucky we saved your house. We owe you some milk. And that we owe you some milk. That message went viral, and that just touches your heart. That's where you don't have to do a 5,000 word essay on what rural firefighters do. It's all there in we owe you some milk. The power of the word, it's beautiful. And when we share stories like that, people get it, and then who knows what they will do with the word, and parents, I ask some parents, oh, are these your beautiful children? And they say, oh, yes, they're beautiful now, but I can't wait for them to go to sleep. Or if it wasn't for Derek, I'd have a life. And I think, wow, when you first held them in your arms, you were going, could you, I'm going to be the best mother in the whole wide world, And now you're vomiting on them in public.
The metaphors.
Speaking like, And the story I tell to get parents, at schools to wake up to how you're speaking your children is a little story from a boy who was 4, Billy. He was asked, what is love? And little Billy said, when someone loves you, the way they say your name is different. You just know that your name is safe in their mouth. Oh, isn't that beautiful?
How old was Billy? How old was he?
4.
4.
The wisdom of a 4-year-old, and that story transforms the lives of parents all around Australia, New Zealand, all wherever I speak. They just go, oh my God, I didn't think about the words I was using. I didn't think when I said I can't wait for the school holidays to be over that I was saying, because I'll be happier when you're not here. And you have that love affair. That's why you're doing this.
Yeah. It's just fun to talk to all these voice actors and find out their stories, and just everyone's just so nice to me. So it's just lovely just to get up close, I guess.
Yeah. Have a dance, a conversation.
Yeah. I know, again, another unrelated question to Power of the Word, but have you done any cartoons that are not Yoram Gross? Or have they just all been Yoram Gross cartoons?
Yeah, I've done some for Burbank, for Blue Rocket Films from Hobart. Yeah, other cartoons, but they haven't been as international as Yoram's. I think, look, I'm probably speaking through my hat. They probably have gone overseas, but they I don't know much about their marketing. Because I was part of the Yoram Gross family, I know more about their products and where they went and how they're marketed.
I believe Yoram Gross died about 6 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That must have been a huge loss for you.
Oh, it was. And an amazing thing happened. I was watching the TV Logie Awards one night. I've been on a big speaking tour and I was in some hotel. And they play in this award night for film and television a tribute to all the people in the industry who've passed away that year.
Yeah.
Face after face came on the screen, and people had been drinking and it was late at night, so nobody was really watching. And Yoram's face came up and I went, oh, there's Yoram. And nobody clapped and nobody noticed. And I thought, oh, he probably entertained you when you were children. You don't even know that man's face, and I was really angry. And then I was thinking, oh dear, it comes to that, doesn't it? You just cark it. I feel he's around, and when I'm sharing the stories about all the things he produced, it's like, yeah, he lives in me. And then I'm telling my stories, and then when I drop off the planet, I'll live in you, Amber, or some of the listeners and viewers will live in them.
Yeah.
And if we use our words wisely and they're enriching words, then that's a good thing.
You'll live on in this VHS cassette tape, Blinky Bill, definitely. I mean, I'm not being funny. I can't remember how much this cost me. I think it's definitely over £10, but it's very rare.
Yeah. Wow. That's the first movie, is it?
That was the first movie, yeah.
Yeah.
You got all BBC stuff inside.
Yeah. And I remember, because that was the first thing we did as Blinky, I didn't think the movie was terribly interesting from a performance point of view, because I seemed to spend the entire movie going, running and being chased and looking for my mum. And when Yoram was interviewed for a book, Yoram realised in the interview that movie had been written about his own life, and he didn't know when he wrote the movie that this is based on he and his brother in Warsaw, and the SS were there, and it was during the German occupation. I think his father died, and he couldn't find his mother, and these two little boys were in the ghettos just wandering around the streets looking for his mother. And so that's the story. But Yoram didn't realise when he wrote the movie. And apparently, and I hope his family approved my telling of this story, but Yoram was a very gifted pianist. And when they had to flee their home, when the Nazis came, they escaped, and he had a mouth organ, and he kept it in his pocket. And some SS guards found he and his brother one day on the street, and they were going to kill them. And then one guard said, "Oh, that's the boy who plays. Play for us." And Yoram pulled out his mouth organ, and he played this music, and the guards let them go. And I'm pretty sure that Yoram kept that mouth organ with him most of the time.
That essentially saved his life, really. Wow.
It did. It did. Yeah. And then to think, he escaped from there and then came to Australia and started a whole new life, and was the father of animation in Australia. I mean, he really put animation on the map with his movies and Dot and the Kangaroo. I mean, that used lots of different actors. And so they did about 4 Dot movies, and then Yoram discovered Keith and myself, and realised that he didn't have to deal with schedules. When you're dealing with the actors who are in the film industry, you've got a lot of scheduling problems. But, when he used voiceover artists, we could do all the voices and just do them and be in town because we're ready for that phone call, get to a session.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Wow. Such a lovely way to end off this interview. Wow. Thank you, Robyn. You've been amazing.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for listening to the stories. I find them fascinating, and I hope our viewers do too. Yeah.
Robyn, you've been fantastic. Honestly, it's been such a joy talking to you. Just hearing Blinky come out of your mouth it just makes me smile so much.
Oh, well, you know what I've got to say to you, Amber? And that is that it's a real joy for me to meet you, because you know what? When you were watching me on TV, I was watching you back, and I could see how extraordinary you are. And you've got such a great, amount of work to do on this planet by, exciting people about the power of their word and bringing stories to life, and using your voice to make people feel better about themselves and to bring meaning to their lives. So I think you are extraordinary.
Thank you, Blinky. I think you're just as extraordinary as me. To be fair, I'm not gonna. I know people say, "Oh yeah, Nutsy's my other favorite character and stuff, and Marsh and stuff." But I personally prefer Miss Magpie again, as I said before. Could you just move Miss Magpie real quick again?
Yeah, all right. Well, I mean, I'd love to have you in my class, Amber. Anybody, but Blinky Bill. He just is such a little nuisance, as they say in Tasmania, a real nointer. And one day I walked out of the classroom and he had to be the teacher. And that was the day he understood how responsible you have to be as a teacher.
Yeah,
so you can come to Green Patch School any day you like.
Sweet. Well, definitely when I'm down under. Definitely.
Yeah, when you come to Australia, we must connect.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. Definitely.
Yeah.
What about Nutsy's voice? What does Nutsy have to say?
Oh, Nutsy would like to say, Amber, I'm in awe of you. And one day, when I grow up, I would like to be just like you, because I love the way that you show initiative. I think initiative is a really, really important quality. And I hope I have as much creativity and initiative and lovely ideas to bring new things to the screen. So you are my heroine.
Thank you. Oh, man, I'm smiling so much my cheeks hurt. Oh, man. Oh dear. Robyn, I was wondering, where could we find you on social media? Do you have a website? Do you have any?
I do.
Facebook?
Yes, it's just Robyn Moore. Yeah, www.robynmoore.com.au. And you can find out the history of my work with Yoram on there, and how green was my cactus, and you can hear my demo tape and find out about my speaking. And yeah, it's pretty old fashioned, but I haven't renewed it because I don't really like the new thing where it's all white and just a couple of little words, and so you kind of get more of the story on my older website.
Yeah. Cheeks are still in pain. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, I want to smile, but then it hurts my cheeks, and then so painful.
That's good for you. See, you don't have as many wrinkles. And when you do voiceovers, we're not very pretty to watch. I mean, it's really bad filming voiceover people because we're doing all of these weird sort of things with our faces, but it means that you don't age as quickly, I don't think.
I think next time I see my sister, I'll definitely tell her I've spoken to you, and hopefully I'll probably might email you just to say, could you just send me a voicemail for my sister, just to say,
Absolutely.
If she does remember, of course, because it was all those years ago, but she thinks she will remember, definitely. She has a kid of her own now, so he's nearly 3, so I might show him Blinky Bill.
Lovely. As people stop me in the street and they say, well, we show our children your old Blinky Bill on YouTube. All the episodes are on YouTube.
Yeah,
and
that's
lovely how they want to pass it on to their own children. Yeah.
You definitely continue. Do you see a Blinky Bill reboot happening?
Redo. There is a new Blinky Bill.
I think the new film. Yeah, it's not like
3D film. Yeah. So I don't know whether they've got plans for a series or what, but Keith and I weren't involved in that one. There's quite a different look in the 3D. So
I see. So with that, I think we'll round off this interview there. So to you at home, thank you so much for watching.
Thank you.
This episode.
Thank you very much.
I really appreciate it. Oh man, I've just smiled so much all the way through.
It's good for us, isn't it? Made a lot of endorphins.
It's happening again. My cheeks are so tight. So yes, thank you for watching. Thank you, honestly, from the bottom of my heart. It really does mean the world to me. So with that, I will say goodbye. It's goodbye from me and Blinky, but I mean Robyn. But Robyn and Blinky.
Goodbye, everybody.
Yes.
See you later, alligator. I love you. I'm still here.